How's everybody doing today? I tell you, Walt's a heck of a clinician. He's great to watch. He's inspiring. On our dummy, I first want to just kind of share the roots of it, where it was inspired and why we built it. I've been roping for a lot of years, and you hit those plateaus, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, I'm doing everything. I'm roping my dummy 100 times in a row every day, doing everything I think I can do, working on my horsemanship. You just lay it out across the board, tack everything we can put into it, and there was just that plateau that was hit, and natural talent just wasn't finding what I needed. And so instead of going through, and I'd listen to all these great clinicians, and you'd even go to schools and everything else, I just, being in the video industry at the time, I was able to just take video footage, start watching all the greatest ropings, the straight, the BFI, these big average ropings, and I just started looking for common denominators, why these guys are all great. And a lot of them verbalize things differently. However, physically, there's a lot of great common denominators. And so from that, we started applying science, angles, the build height, everything about it had a purpose on this dummy. It wasn't just another plastic steer that I could exercise my arm on. And mind you, the great dummies that are out there and been out there for a long time, if you've got a perfect loop, it's going to look perfect, and it's going to catch it, and it's going to work well, and you'll exercise it. But when you're trying to find that loop, like these guys swing, and the reason they're great out of midair, people are saying like this, like that, and I'm trying to find this mysterious thing. It's about like sometimes, for me it felt like, if I'd pay George Strait to come to my house and sing to me for a month, I hate to say it, but I still wouldn't sing like George Strait. He could only take me as far as my natural talent would go. And so when it comes to the jackpot world and our ability to compete from the beginner level all the way up to the pro level for lots of money, there's a lot of people, including myself, that we will never see at the NFR. But when I go to a jackpot, I want to make that free throw shot 100% of the time. I want to do my fundamentals perfect. And so in the design of this, that's what inspired me. I wanted something that would make me rope more correct. And there's a reason that the top guys, when they come up to rope this dummy, they rope it with ease and they say it's easy, and they back all the way to 4 coils, and it's easy. But yet the average guy, even if he can master this right here, when he backs up 2 and 3 coils, that easy disappears. And so literally, even a top pro to 2 swing this from 3 coils out and get it around there every single time is a challenge. And so it's got something for everybody at every level. I want to go ahead and start with the one thing that I get asked about most, which I bet you if I asked everybody here, what do you think it's the #1 question I get, I think it's pretty evident to most people. They're going to say, what is the pole for? So I want to start right there today. The pole does a lot of things. So it's going to seem like it looks just like a pole, but it does a lot of things. The first thing it's going to do is when we look at team ropers today and we look at our loops, we get it up there right up here at the hip, and you go ahead and you place on there and you get it across, we wipe so many head loops on those horns. There's just so many. We get there and we literally drag that loop across and you make a catch. Now a guy that's doing that, and he's doing it 7 out of 10 times, and some nights 10 out of 10 times, and other nights 5 out of 5 times, he's somewhere and he's catching, so he just keeps doing it. The difference is that plateau in that loop, it's going to keep him right there where he's at. And when he goes into that short go, and he walks out there and he wipes it on, and that curl rolls over here and hits it in the rib cage, and he pulls his slack when he's in here narrow, and it waves it off. This loop that came across with this much of an opening and hit here and then did that is going to haunt him for a long, long time. And those happen. It happens to us. We see people miss, wave it off, split the horns. And when you see a header do that in a short go, you kind of feel for him. It's like, man, I've done that. And that really stinks right there. He's wanting to just throw himself onto a pole and impale himself. And so I wanted something that would keep me from being able to throw that bad loop. And trust me, I've split lots of horns. I've waved thousands of loops off. I've done it. And with this dummy, you cannot throw that loop and catch. So that pole is going to make a guy learn. And a lot of ropers, they get up here and they have this turnover out in front and they have this twist in their loop and they're doing it all with their wrist. And they get up here and they come across to do that loop and wipe it on and they're going like that. And it's like, wow, didn't even come close to catching that pole. But on his life's cows, you notice how this rope went around the front of the pole and around the front of that head. And I pull my slack and I neck one. That's a catch sometimes, right? But that's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for that sometimes catch. So it's going to make a guy learn to carry his loop long enough and far enough to get it over the top of there. He's got to come with a bigger plane to his loop, and when he has that bigger plane, it goes on so easy, so easy. And when you're watching a pro gab rope from a distance, that plane is so small, because the further back you get, those horns are smaller and smaller, but up close, they're bigger, they're wider, and so to cover right to left here, I'm making a much more exaggerated movement. And so it's kind of an illusion. You watch a guy's hand, and you have to really slow mo and pay attention to it, because when you're looking at the palm of a hand, and a guy's got a great swing, all you're going to see is this little movement, and they're going to grab their slack.
Folks, I want to let you know that Sherilyn Johnson is at the Spalding Fly Predator booth signing autographs right now.
You're going to come across and then roll. And so if you watch a header's hand, his palm, when he gets that big extended delivery and rolls, you see almost like a flash of their palm. And that's all it takes. And if you think of a trick roper, he's got his big loop. He's not doing this to jump through his loop. He's doing this. Everything he writes in that air at that loop, his loop does. Same thing with a good swing. We have that centrifugal force. Anything we do with our hand is going to be transferred into the tip of our loop. So when a guy's learning to turn his hand over, he can either just try to find it out of the blue air, or when he comes up to this dummy, he's going to have to, again, he's going to have to change everything from here that he's doing to catch to here and getting it wide open, seeing his steer to be able to make that catch. And you can't, I don't know about you guys, but I don't just pull things out of the air. Just all mysteriously, that feel came to me. I've got to find it. I got to look for it. I got to search it. And in golf, I was pretty addicted to golf for a long time. And it's amazing that in golf, there's a lot of similarities. When you get into the 80s in golf, getting out of the 80s into the 70s, it's tough. You either got to have some serious raw natural talent or it ain't never going to happen. And so that's one of the reasons the poles are. The second one is if you drop your rope early, and so many people swing, everything looks good, and then they deliver here. Goes around, whips over. What do these loops also do? They come around, they'll catch the other horn, and then they'll turn around and wave it off or half-head it or rope a front foot most commonly. So dropping your loop early also isn't going to catch this pole and go around the horns. And I had a lady last year at the NFR when we introduced this dummy. She must have thrown 30, 40 loops, and she dropped every one up here, just never could carry it. So I took her purse, I set it on the ground in front of her, and I gave her a loop, and I said, ma'am, I just want you to stand here and take your loop and put it on your purse. And she went like this, and she was like, what the heck? And I said, well, it's your purse, and it's 5 foot in front of you. I mean, just put it on your purse. 6 tries later, she got it on her purse, finally. We took her purse. We then set it in front of the pole on the steer's head, and we asked her to swing in mine. This lady, I think she's a 5, okay? Nice solid 5 roper. And for the first time ever, her loop passed up her hand, the tip went out front, and I mean, it engulfed those horns like it was just, I mean, it was in the center of the loop. And she pulled her slack, she was like, wow, that felt amazing. She had roped to the 5 level and never had her hand carry that loop, the tip past her hand, ever. And it's one of the reasons that you'll see some headers never be able to heel because they don't know where their tip is. And Walt was talking earlier about the tip of his rope and feeling it. Well, in heading, that tip has to be out there if you're going to send it and you're going to be able to have any kind of distance at all in your head loop. So that pole stops those early releases, those flat loops. And the other one it stops is when a guy gets back and reaches and he thinks he has to throw harder. So he'll start swinging and then he'll throw harder, and this loop just rolls right up here and does this. And my guess is before the NFR is over, we're going to see that loop maybe once, maybe a bunch of times on live cattle. It's tough to push a rope. And so to take a little speed off your rope, and even when you reach, keep that perfected, it's important. So an upper level guy, that stick's going to start wearing him out at about 2 coils. It'll start really getting in his head. Okay. The other thing I wanted is to not be a one-dimensional steer roper, to have that easy middle-of-the-road steer every time and let the cattle dictate my success. I was tired of drawing the one that ate my lunch. And I'll tell you, I was in Johnson City, Texas. This roping happened every 2 weeks. I'd been there, I can't tell you how long. I was in the top 3 over and over and over again. And I just kept having issues. And this, for example, this one day I'm sitting there high callback, and I'm like going, man, as long as I don't draw that paint steer with them big tipped horns, I'm going to be golden. Well, what do you think? And you ride back in, you take your break, they come back, start short going. I looked in there and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Out of 60 cows, that's sitting in my chute. And sure enough, what did I do? My famous loop, I dropped it a little bit early. That loop came down and hooked right around that tip, went right around his rib cage, and went flying right off. And I thought, my gosh, that was like driving home. I can guarantee you that hour-and-a-half trip home, I thought about it over and over and over again, and all those things were inspirational to me. So in the design of the head, I wanted more than a free throw shot. So not only does the head come off for easy storage, but when I want to work on that steer that would have eliminated me, and I would have thrown that around the world loop where it hits the horn, does a full 360, and then it's gone, it allows me to challenge myself and rope this steer. To me, this is the hardest steer to catch on team roping as a header. Steer's going to your right, it's got his head tipped. You've got to get so far over there to get that right horn. It is a super tough shot, especially any kind of distance. And then, of course, if one gets pushed to us, and he's running to us a little bit, and he's tipping his head, how many of us have thrown that same loop where it goes on, does the 360, and just floats off? And if a steer's coming to you a little bit, and he's pushed right in your lap, you sure enough want to use him. Your heeler's coming across there waiting for you. And so again, you have to, with that pole, you still have to have that same plane, and you learn to perfect that change in your loop angle. And so it's just like in basketball or any other sport. You don't see guys show up on the field or in the court and practice just one shot. And then they're hoping to get that one shot. And that's all they want. On this dummy, we can practice a reach. We can practice our free throw shot. We start practicing those more challenging shots with the head dipped left and right. And all those things, when we get in there then and we go to competition, we make use of those skills and those muscle memory that we developed. I had a guy one time tell me, a pretty high number guy, and he goes, I think your dummy's too challenging. And I said, well, it's from little kids all the way up can rope it. I said, but it makes them learn how to rope it correct. And he told me, he says, I think people would rather have more fun at home, less challenge, and be let down when they go to a jackpot. And I was like, wow, I've never felt that way. I've never beat myself up as bad as I have driving home after cashing out $900 in entry fees and coming home with zilch in my pocket. Less fuel, less hotel, less food, less everything else. I mean, I'm rigorously hard on myself when we go and we don't perform well. And so to me, if I've got to do push-ups, sit-ups, and I got to do drills, and I got to work my horse, I got to score, I got to work on his face, I got to work on my loops, whatever I do, I want to do that at home. And I want to go to wherever I'm going to go, and I want that muscle memory to take over, and I want to perform. Unconsciously perform. So all these different shots, when I get ready to go rope, I'm not sitting there with the dummy that I'm just crack-shotting it on. I'm not walking forward and back, and I'm going to get to that in the pole in a second. I'm not doing this number out in the parking lot, then expect myself to get out in the arena and have this loop with tip and wide open swing, covering the horns. Why would I expect that loop to show up after just throwing 50 of them that were nothing like that? I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And you see a lot of guys go out in which round? First, second, or third? Right? First round. Team ropings, you can count, they got 300 teams. Guess what? They got probably about 125, 150 in the second. And there's a reason. And all of us have been in a draw pod or something like that, and you got a bunch of runs. You're thankful for some of those because they're a warm-up run. They're almost like you cash them in because you're thinking, man, I'm glad I got those bugs worked out. Now I'm rolling, and I'm roping good, and you're solid for the rest of the day. This gives you that same kind of practice every day, everywhere, all the time. Okay? The other thing with the pole is I look at horsemanship, and I look at the physical, I guess you'd say, the physics behind a loop, and they kind of blend here. And so I'm going to kind of cover both areas. If I'm walking forward and back and I'm roping, first off, I'm walking forward and back to me. I'm uncoiling the spring in my back, the power in my swing, by stepping forward. And that comes to my relation back to golf. In golf, if you swing back and you roll your right foot, you've got no power in your swing. No power at all. I mean, nothing. And think of it like this. If you were on horseback and you blew your right stirrup, how good can you throw your rope? Seriously, how many of you guys rope good without a right stirrup? Because I want to see somebody. I've never met somebody that ropes well without their right stirrup. Okay, and so walking forward and back I don't like to do. And when you're in here narrow, you're going to have that loop that's shaped like an oval track. And you're going to be thrown right smack at the back of that head. It's not going to have any coverage. When my hand's doing this, that's how much coverage I got. When I just make myself stand over here, my shoulders are already facing right there at my target now, which is almost going to give me what? More power because my arm's back. I scoot in close and I start collapsing, and my shoulders are closing up because my target's right there. So that pole, we moved it back for two purposes. I get the other one. We lined it up at the base of the right horn. So when I'm here roping my dummy, I want to be on this line the whole time. And all I want to do, just much like riding my head horse out of the left or the center of the box, I want to get just close enough to rope. That's a bad loop. Drop it early and it gets you. I live and die by my dummy. I might have you know that. I am a product that needs it, uses it every day. So as you get out there and you think of your head horse leaving, and it gets just close enough to rope. The reason this width is so important, and I think falls back into horsemanship, I want everybody to think about swinging a kid for a second. If we put a kid on a swing, and and they say, hey, will you please push me? If you walk up and just push that kid, they're going to fall right out on their face, okay? If you pick that kid straight up and dropped him, that'd be the last time he ever asked you to push him. But we grab that kid, and we bring him back out of 45, and we let him go. And what does that kid do? No push needed. What does the kid do? The weight and speed, he just swings. Okay? So it's a wonder why when we ride our head horses in here and we rope from here, he takes the first shot here, washes them out, and takes a second shot here, and then not handle a steer, but then he has to drag the steer out across the arena. When you position your head horse out here at this position, does it not only help your physics and everything else for your coverage and a better loop, when you sit down and dally and go to ride that horse, slow him down, what does the steer do on the end of the rope? He's at a 45, he's going to hit it, and he's going to start through the corner. And as a heeler, if that steer goes through the corner the same speed and tempo he went down the pin, he's going to be easy to rope. You have to sacrifice some of that when you're going super fast. That disappears. But at a jackpot, a lot of the bigger ropes, these guys rope 5, 6 steers, fast and smooth, you see those elements come back into play. That handle out of the corner is everything for a heeler to be able to catch on that first or second hop. So the stick gives you a physical reference on the ground to make sure you're checking yourself and you're learning to rope from here. If you've never roped from here, it's going to feel so weird. It's going to feel strange as ever. And you may have to totally change the buildup of your loop. And so all these factors come in and I think, this is going to make me feel weird. The deal is when you do these few little changes and you go to the pin, the reason these things are going crazy right now is because guys are seeing their buddies go win big ropings, catch all their cattle, handle their cattle better than they ever have. And some of these guys have been roping 15, 20 years. Okay, so these little changes will be great for you. The other thing I wanted was a multidiscipline dummy. I wanted something that would do everything, okay? I had hauling around a sawhorse and this kind of dummy and that kind of dummy. And I was like, it'd be nice to be able to do everything. Because even if I'm just going to head that day, somebody's going to be heeling for me, period. So having something we can heel as well is super important. So not only did I want something that was collapsible, easy to pack around. I'm going to wiggle this post out here and put everything inside. And now I can just open the tailgate of my truck, slide it on my tailgate underneath the gooseneck of my trailer, close it up, and now I've got everything in one bundle going with me everywhere I want to go. Handles in a place where it's easy to carry, it's balanced, it doesn't tip forward or back, so it's a real useful, easy to use product as well. And I'm just going to touch on this. I'm not your calf roping pro, so don't take too much advice from me, but we did get calf roping pro input on our design. We have a runner calf head, so those families that got a breakaway roper or a calf roper or something like that, that calf head right there will make you throw the most correct and best loop of any calf dummy that's ever been built. One of the reasons being, when you look at all the dummies, their heads are straight out up high or they're positioned up high. I mean, there's some calf dummies that the heads are really high. It's nice if you have a calf that runs out there and sticks up high and his ears are really firm and you can catch him around the ears. That'd be great. But what do we see when somebody top knots a calf? There it goes. And their horse, everything else is great, but they top knot him and he's gone. So this dummy here makes you get down, have tip, and get down in your delivery. If you have your loop opening up too far, hit him back to the ears, and it's going to skip right off. And so a lot of ropers, they'll hit this and their lope will just shoot right off the top of it, but they learn to master that dip. And it's the same dip they carry naturally off horseback because they're looking down at a calf. So here on the ground, again, it's going to give you skills that are going to transfer to horseback. All right, that's it on the calf dummy for me. All right. On the heel side, what we wanted to do is have something that was other than just a set of legs propped up there to rope. First thing we did is we wanted it to be somewhat of a challenge on getting your bottom strand to the ground, be realistic, so it's only 2 inches up. Secondly, I wanted a ground-based reference to make sure I was doing my mechanics right. And so I'm going to show everybody this here, okay? So look at this angle, how it comes up, and just imagine it going up and out, okay? Imagine it going up and out. When we leave the box as a heeler, obviously say our arena's here, we're going down the arena, our steer's in the middle and our header's over there, and so we pick up our rope and we angle it at the steer's hip. Well, on the ground, everybody walks it behind their dummies, they'll swing up here like this and then transition down for a catch, or they'll do the other, which is rope back in behind the feet, get their tip way down, and then step into it when they catch. And my opinion for me, every time I step forward, it brings my shoulders and gives away my power. And we can go back to that, what happens if you blow your right stirrup deal again. So I wanted something that would give me a reference. So as I start at this dummy, I come at a 90-degree angle, and I have this to make sure my tip is matched to it. So every time I'm on the ground, I'm packing the same angle on the ground as I'm going to do off my horse in a few minutes. Secondly, if these legs came out and dropped, I'd have no way I could swing at my target. And I don't want to have to manipulate my loop for a catch on a dummy. I want every swing to be there, and I want to just extend and place my loop in there and rope my cow. And so I always start out at a high left corner, and I'll usually put a bucket to walk up around. And you come out and start up here. Say you're here, you work down to your angle, make sure it's good. You come forward, you turn in, you get in there, and you got your tip right across your target now. So the difference between that and a catch is simply rotating, putting our bottom strand down, and being right here to get our slack. Now, something that you guys, if you're here for the last presentation, heard, and it is absolute proven truth, we've studied the physics and everything else, is the opening that we need our tip to go through, and having tip control is everything for catching back feet. And so when I designed this opening, I wanted to make it to where you should rope it with a full-size heel loop, but make it where you have to use the tip of your rope. And so if you start swinging on this and everything looks great, everything's powerful, you get in here, you come around, you squirt, you change the plane of your loop, and you reach up like this, on a sawhorse, that would have looked wonderful. On this, that sounds to me like a real massive rejection of a heel loop. And so when I walk out to my dummy, the miss that I make most is that one right there. I have more problem making sure I stay all the way down with my tip first and following in. And so this dummy's not going to let you cheat it there. And I don't mean give your kid a goat rope or take a goat rope and go out here and do this number where they go on top and they do that. That does nothing for you. And that's where when you're letting your kids play with something, this thing here to be able to head it, spin it, heel it, and these legs are designed so we can jerk back and have fun. Okay, when we jerk back, I can jerk back and let them pop back open and let my rope drop off. So this is meant to have fun on too, but when your kids are roping it, full-size ropes. Everything we do, just like for real. Put the big trap in there, it gates out, and we're good to go. So it's got the reference in it for the back legs. The window opening is absolutely crucial. You can't drop your loop early. You can't not let your tip go in first and catch this thing with a full-size loop. And one of the things that I want to talk about on that theory, and you hear a lot of people talk about the spoke and the length and the weight and everything else. It has to have that spoke and everything's front makes the weight that makes it go in. If you take a perfectly balanced piece of wood and you have a pole sitting in front of you and you mark it and you lay it right there on top, it's going to bounce and it's going to look good. When you lift it, whatever leading edge you tip and drop it, thus will be the direction it kicks. Period. It's going to happen every time. You can go home and try it. So when we throw a heel loop, and it's even if it's balanced weighted, okay, we already know we have 2 strands back here. 3, actually, think about it. You have 3 strands back here. We have just 2 up there. So which part of that loop is going to be heavier, the front or the back? The back. So the second we come in there to dead even throw, it's going to U-bolt around the legs, which will catch some cattle. But again, are we looking to catch some cattle? So as we learn to let our tip go in first, the tip actually, when it hits, that physics takes over and draws it in, and that's what makes it cover the feet and stand up like we want it to. Okay? So again, that's the reason you want to have major tip control. And when a guy heels really well, typically taking him to the head side, he feels like he should be a header because what has he had to develop in heeling to be good? Tip control. Well, to reach anything other than the hip, you have to have tip control up here to be able to head well. And that's why some really good heelers are almost always really good headers. So again, just as a recap on that, we have our visual, we have a realistic life-size opening. Now you can actually heel this from horseback too, right? And you walk up to it down there, and that same loop you used on the ground is going to work on horseback. Okay? So you get done, you fold these over, and in doing this, I figured might as well use this space. So I made a place to go ahead and just pack my dummy ropes, one on each side, so when I get my trailer, I'm not taking my good competition rope, fuzzing it up out there on the parking lot on the cement or something. I like a good, slick, pretty clean rope. So that's what that's designed for there. So I think that pretty much covers the design concepts behind it. I want to know if there's any questions at this point. Anybody have any questions? And now I'm going to do the torturous thing, which is I want a couple volunteers. I want somebody to come up here and rope it a little bit on the head side and just check it out. We got any team ropers here? Team ropers are the worst liars in the world. Look at them. Yeah. How about you, young man? You want to come on up here for me? What's your name? Grady, where are you from?
Arizona.
Arizona. And what do you rope, head or heel?
Head.
Head? Okay, good deal. Okay. We'll throw a couple more. Your loop is real borderline right there where it's got a lot more potential. You got a pretty good loop. It's got a lot of potential. And what I want you to do is just simply move yourself over out of your comfort zone just a little bit. Okay, so look at my hand here, follow on this line. And when you walk forward this time, if you have to walk, and just practice this, you want to just half step, keep your shoulders back, Don't uncoil that spring that you need to create power. Because on your head horse, if you're riding on your right stirrup, you're in your right lead. Okay, so just keep that back so you can keep your shoulders back. It's going to feel weird. Okay, do you notice how much more open? And your loop started in from right over here instead of right about here. And so it's going to open up your loop by keeping your shoulders back and keeping you out left. Okay? And one thing I want you to do, and you come around on this time, before you go to deliver, I just want you to look over at me and swing at me. So get everything ready, get up to your spot. Just want you to, and look right at me and swing at me. Push over here a little bit. Okay? Reach out and row your hand a little bit over. Okay, now just look back to the dummy and go ahead and row. Okay, it's going to get you looking and keeping your swing instead of creeping. The more swing you did, you creeped, and you came in. Okay? Now what I want you to do is I want you to get back to a coil, and I want you to go ahead and give it a try from a coil with that same loop you're throwing. Okay, good. Good power, good delivery. It's kind of mysterious that would go over that, isn't it? You wouldn't think that a loop coming across the horns like that would catch that pole. And you can actually go a little bit higher, but we didn't want to make it like near impossible. So going to throw another one. Good loops, good loops. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and just practice our A and B shot here. Okay. He's smiling, I don't know why. I'll do it again. Now on these loops here, everything has to stay the same. Your loop wants to be the plane of the horns, and so we've got to change that plane of our delivery and rotate it down to catch our left horn. It's a good loop. Do you rope your dummy a lot?
Yeah.
Good deal. How beneficial do you think it'd be to have something you can do all your shots on? Yeah. Okay, go ahead and take another one. It is hard. It's a really, really tough shot. And why, when you see a cow go to the fence as a header and he's tipping his head, it's such a low percentage shot. It's so hard to get him, and that's where you're just praying your healer can somehow peel him off the wall and get him to bring his head back up. Okay. All I want you to do here is when you're swinging the same way you swung before, change the plane of it just to where it's flattened out the shape of his horns, and just let your delivery take over. That's going to get you slow everything down. Whenever you're making change too, guys, on this dummy, when you go home, the last thing you want to do is go at this thing full speed. Try it out a little bit, rope it a little bit, see what it does for you. But when you want to find the way to rope this thing, you want to slow everything down, make everything perfect. And by doing that, and it's the whole design concept behind this, you think about how we all learn to write in school. Big line, little dots in the middle. You make your B fit in there, you make your A fit in there, you make your C's, everything looks beautiful. Let me ask everybody here, how does your signature look on a check? Yeah, we all know, okay? But that's like, seriously, being able to rope on a dummy that lets you catch it with every bad loop there's known to man, and you can catch it with a good loop, there's no doubt about it, but if it doesn't define or help you find that perfect loop, what good is it? And so when you rope this dummy, these barriers and these things that are set in here is to make you a better roper. When you master that shot right there, are you going to worry when one tips his head and goes to the fence ever again? No. You'll just wear them out, and you're going to react. But that shot right there is going to take you a little bit to master. And one of the things you'll find on that shot is you're going to have to get in tighter, a little bit tighter and higher, or you're going to have to always make sure when a steer's leaving you a little bit to the right, even if you're in the normal, what you'd call a good position, that distance is greater, and you have to typically drop a coil to reach that far. So, do you want to try to heel it too? You heel it? Sure. Get that loop up and tip it down, match it. There you go. Good. What I want you to do when you come through there, make your spoke a little bit longer. If you're not much of a healer, it's going to feel really weird to have that big of a spoke, but just make it longer. And everything that's in your spoke, you know, there's lots of stuff talked about spoke, but when you watch it in slow motion, everything that's in your spoke, when that loop makes contact and you release it, that is what hits on the outside of the ground and covers that steer's legs as it goes through. And it's crazy. It's literally usually where you see a guy's finger, pinky pointed at the end of his delivery, is where that spoke there lies. But your tip is what goes through there and catches the feet on the front side. That spoke basically covers out here and scoops and make sure that when they go out that you're not losing an outside leg. So if you have a small spoke, a lot of times you'll rope in there. Like on this dummy here, it's the reason we made it 2 inches versus taking it and making it something like this where it's way up off the ground. If you throw that loop in there at the small spoke and you go to lift up and you've got this teardrop that comes up and is above this leg, it's going to be the same thing when you rope inside legs all the time on cattle. Pick your loop up, leg goes underneath it, and you got an inside leg. Okay? Stay on your left foot and keep your shoulders back. Got to hold on to it a little bit longer. And the difference, you know, we talk about timing all the time in heeling, and in heading, we can get away without having perfect timing in our tip out front. Heeling, we can't. There's no way. And so as a guy really, as I call it, times his delivery, I'm not talking time the steer here, we're talking about times his delivery, he has to feel that rope pass his hand and pull on his pinky. And so what I do is I look at that left leg when I'm swinging, and about the time that tip shows the left leg, I can say there in my mind. Because now I feel it pull my pinky there, and it seems weird because I'm going to deliver on there. My hand's going to carry it, the tip's going to come way through. It's going to feel like a delayed delivery. And that's why me physically, when I rope, that's my biggest and worst nightmare, is that early delivery. I feel it, I've got the speed, I got my tip, and it feels like it's coming with me, and then I drop it a little bit early. And I can promise you, don't try this on a live kid, but if you pick a kid up by his hands and you swing him in a circle, wherever you let go, there that kid will fly. So in a heel loop, it shouldn't surprise us that when we let go just an inch or two early, wow, that we're laying outside and we're maybe snagging an outside leg. And it's an inch or two in your delivery. I mean, we're talking microscopic. Because once it passes here and it hinges, just like, you know, me as a kid growing up in Montana, we fished all these little creeks, and we'd go there and get these bridges. And man, I always knew about midday if I was going to catch anything, I'm going to have to go to some shade, get those little brookies and browns. And I knew that the open water was done. There's nothing left in it. But I was a fishaholic. I mean, I wanted to fish from morning till night. So I'd hit these little bridges, and I had to master this little space. I'd get up there and get some line out, and I'd get that weight swinging, and I'd have to wait for that weight went by and shoot it underneath the bridge. Man, 4 or 5 foot up there, bloop, and chink, reel him in, bring him out. And in heeling, it's the same thing. If we don't let that tip get in that opening before we let it go, we will lay it out here. And in creek fishing, if you did that, you just hit the water and just drop the water right in front of your face. It would never go in. And so that's in a sense, that whole opening. So go ahead and try that again, but I want you literally in your mind, every swing, say there as you see the left leg in your loop. Okay, and I want you to slow down, and I don't want you to let go of that rope until you see the rope hit the right leg. See it hit. Not anticipate it, but actually physically see it. Good, and there's our bottom strand, covers the ground, and goes on through. This loop right here is going to catch cattle. Those other loops where it teardrops and slides underneath, and I know I'm not the only one that's been here where we have this, what looks like a good trap, because man, I had 3 foot sticking out the left side. But when the hondu's in front of that leg, it doesn't matter how many feet are sticking out the left side, you then just hands pulled your loop out of there and just heard it go zzz, 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 ping. And you're like, huh? But I had 3 foot sticking out the left side. Well, you had nothing on the right leg. Everything was down in front and teardrop shaped, and it happens a lot when you have that buildup. So learning that contact on this dummy and it not letting you get it in there, not letting you stand it up, and when you get that early delivery, it's going to hit that body and it's going to make a really loud whack that'll talk to you. So unlike being with your buddies golfing, you got 3 guys that all know each other and say, hey, you're dropping your arm big time, man. Or you're leaning over on your heel horse and he's whipping his horse because his horse is getting short. Oh, he's shorting me. Well, you look at a video and he's leaned off the side of his horse going through the corner and he's got his steer covered up. Well, if he can feel a fly land on his butt, what makes you think he can't feel 180 pounds shift his weight in the stirrups? That's a pretty big cue to start stopping, start that separation that we need for a heeling run. And so a guy, you know, he's got his left hand, but if he gives it up the control early and uses his foot to cue his horse and shorts him and turns him, he's lost everything again. Okay? All right. Who else wants to come up here and give this thing a whirl? Anyone? You want to give it a try? And I bet your name's Luke, right? I think so. No. So you get them to have a name tag on their jacket. Here in Vegas, you got people who tell you everything you want to know, just pay them enough money. What do you do, Luke, head or heel? You rope calves. You want to rope the calf head? Or you want to try the steer head first? Okay, let's go with steer head first. We get our first calf roper of the day, folks. Good loop. Well, Luke, I think you ought to quit roping calves and go to roping steers. That's pretty nice. Are you moved way over there to the left because you know we're supposed to be over there, or is it because you naturally rope from over there? Sure, he just says sure. Yeah, whatever. Whichever answer is better. Good loops. Good loops. All right. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to move you. You're already good. You got a great swing. Let me ask you something, Luke. When you rope a dummy, do you want something on the ground that's going to let you rope it differently than you'd rope from horseback? No. No, we don't. And so by having that pull and that angle, that head the way it is, you notice when he's swinging, watch where he's packing his rope. And it's so funny, last year there was a guy that came to our booth, and he's a really, really high number guy. He's a great roper. And I pulled the post out, and he goes, no, I want to rope it with the post in. I said, well, just throw a couple loops with the post out. And so he walked up there, and he shot it on a few times, and I turned to his buddies that were all with him. I said, now watch when I put the post in. Watch where his hand goes. Watch his delivery. Watch him extend and make a real-life looking delivery. And he goes, what'd you say to him? And I said nothing. He turned around and put the post in, and man, he just came up here, opened it up, and gave it to it. And he goes, and all of his buddies were like, holy crap, look at that. And he goes, what? I said, you just followed the script. Mentally, this dummy is also going to make you change how you pack your rope. And he's packing his rope good and high. It looks good. This is probably the flip side of your world being a calf roper. This goes against the complete grain of a calf roper's loop. It's the flip side here. So you're going to have to change your whole plane over here and deliver over here versus the opposite of that. So just get your swing the same direction. Good. And all that is a couple degrees, folks. That's not 8, 10 inches in our swing. It's a couple degrees. And you'll see guys miss the right horns. You watch a guy lean off his horse, and these kids that rope these dummies and go like this, and they run out of the hole. Well, in live cattle, when you're sitting on a horseback, unless you got like 6-inch shorter rider stirrup and 6-inch longer stirrup and you can ride sideways, that's not going to happen. When you're on a motorcycle, think how a motorcycle turns. You don't lean and the bike stays straight, much like a horse. That's going to lean and you're going to go with it. You're still square and you're still having to match those horns and rope. Okay? So this loop here, you've got to match it just a couple degrees, just like if a steer is pushed to us. Okay, go ahead again. Now we're going to go to something maybe you'll be able to master here. It's one of the tougher shots for us steer ropers. Good transition. Really, really, really nice. Seems easy, huh? You being a calf roper, you should have some dip here, so let's see it. Ooh, he got the right horn. That's the start. Don't doubt yourself. Complete your follow-through like you have on every other delivery. Don't stall it out. I'm telling you, being a calf roper, this should be natural. That's the loop I always throw, by the way. That's mine right there. Round one horn, it is a nemesis to me. Almost there. Slow it down a little bit. Let your loop blossom. Don't jam it at the end, okay? That would have caught if you would have just had a little speed off of it. And we're going to throw this calf head on for this kid. There it is. Anytime we jam our rope, those last two loops he threw, or the two that he threw that caught the right horn, if he would have been swinging and delivered at that same crisp speed and doing a follow-through versus trying to jam it, he would have caught. That pole right there basically is going to make that null and void. He won't catch that, both horns, with the jam loop ever. It'll do the same thing over and over and over. And a person sitting there by himself, and we started on this earlier, I never finished, when you're golfing with a bunch of buddies that know your weaknesses, they can tell you what you're doing. But I don't know about you, but I usually get out a few minutes, jump out of my house, go rope my dummy. I'm by myself. And so the only thing I'm talking to, it's probably, I'd like to see some psychiatrists study this. This thing right here talks to me and says, hey, you idiot, you just dropped your rope early. Hey, you need to slow your tip down because you just welded it around that thing. Or, hey, when you smack the side of your dummy, your tip ain't going in. And I'm telling you, the other day, getting ready for the NFR, there was just a minor stress level at our office. And I'm sure the gals from NRS might know a little bit what we're talking about. Chaotic. And I was like, my secretary goes, I think we should go outside and rope the dummy. And I was like, I said, I think you're right. Let's go. We walked outside, and you'd think that it would have been a relaxing moment. Well, about the first dozen loops that I welded the side of my dummy with, okay, my stress level went even higher. And I had to stop myself, break it down, back off, get my angle right, walk in there, watch my tip hit, and boom, there's my loop. And I felt it instantly, and I never missed it again. But the thing is, those first 12 loops, and I'm not joking. You can call her. She laughed at me for a long time. I just literally just pelted the side of this thing. I mean, like if I was leaving welts on a steer. So even though you're by yourself practicing, that's usually when we develop our worst habits. And when I'd go and have somebody help me, and then I'd then leave, I might take one or two things with me, but trying to maintain them for any period of time, just out of the random blue, it was tough. I felt like if I lived there, breathed there, sat there, and had somebody watch me rope, it could be better. Problem is, my practice time doesn't allow me to have somebody stand there with me all the time. I could leave that pole in, but he'd never catch it, and that's not fair. You don't need a pole in this thing when you're roping calves. And he's got a good loop, so I think he should probably wear it out. If you can force yourself to throw a little flatter loop, do once, because I want these people to see what it does when you don't have the right dip in your rope. Have you ever top knotted one? Okay, just think about, it's such a slight difference. He can't make himself. That's a good loop. That's a really, really strong, good loop. They usually top knot the ones that are running with their head way up, or the ones that got their head down and they're flying. And hence why we call this a runner. If you don't have to have your tip down and get down to the back of that head, it's like roping something that's elevated. Mind you, as a header, if a steer leaves the chute and he has never been there before, he'll usually stick his head up, look around, try to find the gate. They're just sitting up there saying, rope me with about anything. Just throw something out there and you're going to catch horns. But when you get in there, you back in there and they're running, you see a backbone and you see horns down there. You don't see them sticking up saying, here I am, make it easy. And so on this calf head, that's what we wanted. We wanted something that made him stay down for those tougher calves, not the easy shots. The ones that are a little bit tougher. And on this material, mind you, I could have covered this with something if I wanted to, felt or carpet or whatever. But one of the beauties of this, when it hits this, if it's not a perfect loop, it's going to skip straight down and hit the carpet. It's going to be gone. I mean, it's tough. So throw one more calf loop. We're going to grab somebody else up here real quick. Beautiful calf loops, Luke. Good job. Thanks for coming up. All right. Anybody else? I want a healer to come up. Anybody heals? Volunteer their services for a second? You heal? Anybody over here? Guys standing back here? Got a bunch of ropers. I see them. They're all standing there in a group. Want to come on up? And I apologize. All we have is a super soft head rope, but that's what we got. I want you just to show us what you got. Good start there. You took your time, you got your tip down. Okay, good. Go ahead and throw another one. Now on this here, you notice his first 3 or 4 swings, how it takes him to get to that angle. You know, on the head and the heels, it's something I want to talk about. The start of our loop is like our most important swing we take. If we come out of the head box and it takes us 5 swings to be ready to throw, how many of us mid-numbered ropers have ever drawn the perfect steer to open? You get out great, and you throw it right down the side of their head. Flat right in the dirt, and you're like, oh my gosh, that would have been a 5. That would have been a 6. The deal is, when it takes us 4 and 5 swings to get to perfect, that's what we end up. We end up losing those opportunities. So when you're up here practicing, the goal is to get that angle immediately. Work to it eventually, but you're going to be there where you have that right angle immediately. And that's going to transfer also onto horseback. You get out there and you pick up your heel loop, and you're now at that perfect angle, one swing. Well, what happens if some guy just actually throws everything out there, ducks left, and whips and washes out in front of you? Well, your second swing you can deliver if you want, because it's already there. Angle's there, everything's set, same thing on the head side. So let's throw one more. Okay. Now this right here, like what had just happened to him, 2 things we're going to change here. One's the build up his loop, we're going to make it a lot bigger. But 2, like earlier in our demonstration when I talked so important about go and build your loop up and just pass it over to me, getting way high on a dummy, okay, and roping up here where we're going like this and we're stalling our shoulders out and we're going down trying to reach in here and hit that shot. There's no power in that, there's no accuracy in that, and you'll see the top guys pull off some shots, and that's why they are who they are. But when we're down here, our shoulders back and our steer's right out here in front of us and our loop's out front, and we just rotate and stick that loop down there with power, we're coming from here with power in our delivery. When I'm up here, I've got no power. My shoulders are locked back. I'm leaning back in the saddle. And hence, like one of our products that's the Pro Dally Smart Wrap, it keeps the head rope from going underneath the saddle horn. And when a header can keep from sliding a steer back to me and not leaving me here, because the second I go around the corner and a steer comes back to me, I'm here. And if you're totally collected, totally calm, you're going to be like, yeah, I'll just back my horse off, kick up across the arena, waste 3 seconds, and rope him right. The problem with that is I'm usually not calm and collected, so I try to pull off the shot when I'm high and the steer's right next to me as he jumps away from me. And again, I'm roping back feet, front feet, and everything else. So we're going to make a little change here. We're going to make your spoke a little bit longer and your loop quite a bit bigger. Okay, and I want to get the slack between your hands. Are you going to feed your rope or not feed? What do you do? Feed. Okay, so let's pull a little of this back in then. Apologize about that. Let's put that between your hands. So get crossed over. All right, hold your hand up here. And this is what I call butler waitress. You want a good way to measure everything out? Find the loop that works best for you. Mark it. Here, let's take a look at this back. Okay, so I want you to basically start right here. I want you to go straight. And when you turn in from here, walk in and swing your loop at the back of those legs above this, right here. Okay, and then deliver from there. Yes, tip right there. Slow it down. Stay back, back it up, back it up. Stay a little bit further back. Yeah, don't cover up your steer. Again, we got to be back further. I want you to look where you're standing here, and I don't want you to walk. All I want you to do is take a step straight back right here. Come towards me. Back here a little bit. Okay, good. Back up a little bit. Good, a little bit. Good. Now build everything back up, and let's rope one from here. There's an analogy and a saying. I wish it was mine, but I wasn't this brilliant to think this up. But we were at a school in San Antonio doing this big clinic, and there was Al Bach was there and Patrick Smith. I want you to stay back further. Don't step into the dummy when you rope. And anyways, they kept pounding everybody's heads there. They said, hey, it's better to be late than early. Nothing good ever comes from being early. And so when we're late, going into the corner and going to a cow, that's always better than being on top one and having to pull our horse off of a steer. Okay? Get everything built back up here, and I want you to stay back further. I'm going to make you, yep. Trust me, it'll reach. This is going to fly, that's going to fly. And if you want me to prove it, just hold this for a second. Grab your coils. Let's just test my theory here. Let go. No, stay there, and you let go. Okay, so I want you to feel confident that that's going to get there, okay? Where's your loop here? All right, and we want, if you've got too much slack in your hand, guys, it's always going to fly further than it's supposed to, and you're always going to hit front feet. You want to make sure you have your build-up right. Don't step into it. Keep your left foot a little bit forward, left foot forward, left, your other left. Okay, now just rotate down there and watch the tip hit the legs. Okay, wow. All because he's brought himself back where he's not hitting the plastic. He's swinging back at his target. He's not changing his swing here. He's not up here now trying to go like this. He just simply swung, watched it hit the leg, and bam, there it goes. So I want to thank you all for your time today. I want to thank you for coming up and volunteering. I appreciate it. If you guys got any questions at all about the Rope Smart steer, it is One Smart Dummy. You can find us over at our booth here at the NRS show and at the locations here at the Vegas deal. So thank you guys for your time today.